Welcome to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Neil Gibb, where each week we use the stories and journeys of other successful business owners to motivate, inspire, and empower you to become the next breed of successful entrepreneurs. Hello and welcome to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Neil Gibb. Today we have Ashlee Harrison from Zero2Hero. Ashlee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
Very welcome. So Zero2Hero are dedicated to increasing the understanding of mental health issues and the awareness of mental health services and the prevention of suicide in young people across Australia.
Yeah, mainly Western Australia, but we will go the whole country at some stage in the future.
It's an interesting topic, this. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Great.
Yeah, cool. And just some other little things on Ashlee as well. She once won Young Australian of the Year, Young Western Australian of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are also 100 Women of Influence in Australia.
Yeah, so the Financial Review rate 100 women of influence every year, and I was very fortunate to receive that a couple of years ago.
And you've won the Pride of Australia medal.
Yes.
It's
actually a medal too.
Yes, is it? A gold medal?
You get a medal.
Does it hang around your neck?
If you put it there, yes.
Cool. Awesome. So obviously we need to know how all that's come about. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. And you were born in Perth.
I was.
Yeah.
Yes, a very proud Perthian. So where do I start? Born in 1987, born in Perth. I flirted with the idea of moving East Coast at some stage in my early 20s. But I just love Perth too much. Love everything that this city has to offer, and I'm a proud West Australian.
It's getting better and better as well, isn't
it?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I love the weather we get. I love being close to my family, and I now have children, so I'm not going anywhere.
And what do you think of the winters in Perth?
I'm not a huge fan of winter. I do try and escape whenever possible.
Yeah.
So we're heading up to Exmouth in July in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
So we'll get that sunshine.
Yep.
I'd prefer to go to Europe, but no one's going there for a while.
You can't do it just yet.
No, not yet. Yeah. So I prefer summer. I prefer the sunshine.
Yeah. And you told me earlier that you were originally in real estate.
Yes, don't hold that against me. So straight out of school, I moved into sales. I didn't do as well in my ATAR as I had have hoped. Apparently you have to study to achieve really great exam results. So I looked at how could I apply my skills to an industry, and sales was a really natural fit for me. So moved into selling mobile phones and selling coffee machines. And then I walked into a real estate agency one day and sold the licensee a coffee machine. And before I knew it, I was in real estate. And I stepped out of real estate just before I started university. So I studied a Bachelor of Commerce at Curtin, and being a real estate agent while at uni doesn't happen. No, not really possible. So moved into retail to get me through uni, and then social media, and now not for profit.
Social media?
Yeah. So I've run a social media consultancy for the last 8 years.
Cool.
During COVID, I've kind of wound that down. It's not something that I love doing anymore, and the charity that I run is very large now and takes a lot of my thinking time.
Yep.
But you just can't get paid the same to run a charity as you can to run your own business and for-profit organisation. But I was very fortunate to work with some really great brands in Western Australia. So I did all the social media and digital marketing for BMW for a little while, for BGC consulting or contracting, and also worked with Access Hire and some other fun and wonderful businesses. So
big names there.
Yeah, I preferred to sort of I love marketing, public relations, and sales, obviously, and I like to apply those skills to brands in an authentic way, and I find communicating quite natural. So social media was an easy vehicle for that, and it was just something I was kind of born into, into the generation of digital marketing and social media. So it was a natural fit. But Zero2Hero is where my heart lies. Yep. So the bigger that got, the more natural it was to step away from and to decrease my social media.
So how did you initially sort of step into Zero2Hero? How did it come about?
Yeah. So I lost my stepdad to suicide when I was 21, nearly 21 years old. And I started the charity shortly after. I never intended for it to be a charity. I took the skills that I had and started fundraising for other charities working in suicide prevention. So for the first 3 years, I worked with or fundraised for Suicide Prevention Australia, which are based in the East Coast, then worked with Lifeline or fundraised for Lifeline and did some work with Lifeline WA over here and was on their event committee for the Black Diamond Ball back in the early days. And then I fundraised for Youth Focus. And so the more knowledge and experience I got in the mental health sector, the more I realised that we were focusing a lot on the crisis point of suicide and mental illness, and very little was being done in health promotion and preventative stages. So a lot of our funding goes into treating the problem rather than preventing it in the first place. And so it became quite evident to me that that was a huge gap in the mental health space and was a gap that we could address and I could address. So after fundraising for other charities for 4 years, we became a charity of our own and we've started to really focus on that educational element and the prevention and the health promotion side of mental health to prevent issues later in life.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it all makes sense in hindsight, but I never ever went out to start a charity or to be where I am today.
Yeah, right. I'm starting to piece the puzzle together now because we had a little chat just before we came onto the podcast. So I'm guessing you use your marketing background to sort of get Zero2Hero out there so people are aware of what's going on, who you are.
Yeah, so I'm now the CEO of Zero2Hero. So we're at a size of an organisation where I'm still required to do a lot of operations. I don't get as much time to be creative as I would like within the sector, but we're getting there. But yeah, we definitely have a strong focus on marketing our programs to young people. We definitely focus on meeting their needs and make sure that our programs are a fit for what they want, so that we don't launch anything that's, designed by a group over here that doesn't fit the I suppose the end user or who it's out to support and who it's out to create.
And how do you target these young people? Is it through social media still?
A lot of social media.
Yeah, it's amazing with social media.
A lot of Instagram. A lot of Facebook ads for parents, and then we've got a great relationship with schools. So our programs now, so we run a range of different programs. We do a lot of school workshops. We do camps, which we've got several streams of camps, and then we do other events and fundraisers that help us pay for everything. But we're in 100 schools now, so we're in 1 in every 3 high schools. So we've got a great relationship with and a great I suppose connection with a lot of teachers, and they love what we do. And the more we do, the more they want us to do, and then they tell their friends at that school. And so, we're growing quite organically. Yeah,
nice. And how do the kids respond to it at school?
They love it. So, young people, I suppose, the current generation are dealing with some issues that we wouldn't really understand. I mean, each generation have had their own unique set of issues. What I'm seeing today is there's slightly less stigma around mental illness for the, current teenagers. They understand it's a thing. They understand that they can talk about it. So largely what we're doing with this generation is developing their resilience. So yes, you're going to have hard times. Yes, you're going to have challenges and battles. How can we better support you and develop your skills and, increase your adaptive resilience to better support you in the future? Like none of us knew that COVID was going to happen at the start of 2020. However, a lot of our young people that have been through our camp programs had the skills required to reach out for help if they needed and to navigate their own mental health and their own well-being and how to support that during lockdown or any other issues that they face. Yeah.
I really think kids these days, or the youth these days, are really privileged that they have access to these type of things, because growing up in the UK and working through the industries that I worked in before I got into real estate, I was an electrician. So I grew up from the ages of 16 onwards working on building sites surrounded by men. It was a very macho environment. There was none of this talking about your feelings or your mental health or how you feel. And, men would never cry in front of each other. And that's changed a lot recently. It's
definitely.
It's now acceptable.
Yeah.
Not that it's never not been acceptable. It was just...
It wasn't a done thing.
It wasn't a done thing, yeah. So
and there is still that masculine macho energy. We're not there yet. But what we are seeing is a real acceptance and a real empathy and compassion for young men and women.
Yeah.
But that starts at the ground up. So we need a complete overhaul of our parenting. It's really interesting to watch. Like, I've got 2 young children myself now, and you go to the park and you see the different treatment of boys versus girls. Boys fall over and get up, mate, don't cry. Yet a girl falls over and, and I am seeing a shift. Like, there's a lot more awareness around, if we don't acknowledge a young boy's feelings as a child, then or we tell them to toughen up or stop crying, then it teaches them as a teenager or an adult that they shouldn't feel or that those feelings are bad or wrong, which kind of cuts off half of their being. So we're doing a lot of work in the early stages as how we can develop that resilience. From the ground up.
What about the parents, and how do the parents react to this? Because I know some of them will be in their old school ways. They probably won't like the fact that people are out there talking about it because they're scared in case it makes people... I think if they feel people are aware of it, it makes them not want it more, but it could potentially be in their lives more if they're aware of it. So I know...
What do you mean
so
by that?
Going back to me growing up, we just wouldn't talk about things if we didn't want it to be there. So suicide was never talked about. Mental health was never talked about. Certain things, just growing up, it was just ignored under the carpet. If you can't see it, it's never going to happen, sort of thing. So how do parents nowadays react to this if people like yourself are in schools teaching young kids about suicide and mental health?
So I mean, the programs that we deliver are appropriate for the ages that we deliver that content to. So one of our camp programs is called Camp Hero Mental Health Leadership. And at each one of those camps, we have 40 young leaders from across the state come and they learn how to prevent suicide. So within the 5-day program, we first develop their understanding of themselves, develop their understanding of their own mental health and what they need. There's nearly 8 billion people in the planet, and therefore there's 8 billion mental health care plans because each of us is different. So we first teach them how to understand themselves or, put the oxygen mask on themselves first. And once they're okay, then they can be in a supportive role for someone else. So that program's for 15 plus because of the maturity of the content we're delivering and the suicide prevention accreditation or suicide alertness accreditation that we teach in that program is for 15 plus. But, when I started in the mental health sector nearly 10 years ago now, there was a resistance to talking about it. And that came from an old theory or an old belief that talking about it caused it and talking about suicide caused copycat suicides, et cetera, et cetera. But what they've studied again and again and again and proven to not be accurate is if we don't talk about it, it actually has the reverse effect. So if we don't talk about it, it further stigmatizes the thoughts of suicide. It further creates taboo around mental health problems. And we need to normalize conversations in order for those that are suffering in silence to feel like it's okay to get help and to feel like it's okay to reach out for that support, or even just to say, hey, I'm not feeling right. I'm thinking about suicide. How can I get help? And so what we have noticed is a real shift in that and a shift in schools being accepting of, hey, we need to talk about it, and parents being accepting of that as well. But it doesn't mean that we don't get the occasional parent that says, I don't really want my young person talking about that. But we're very clear in our branding and our marketing, and we also work really hard in the 5-day camp program at teaching young people how to have those conversations with their parents because we know they're going to get some resistance somewhere in their life. That's called leadership. How can we prepare them for those conversations and those challenges moving forward?
And as you were talking about that there, I'm thinking you must have some conversation with the children as well around their mental health and them bringing up how they feel and the thoughts that are going through their minds.
Yeah.
It must be pretty tough at times to hear that coming from a kid. with having kids yourself. I don't have kids, but I've got friends with kids, and we spend quite a lot of time with them.
Take your time.
Everybody says this to me.
I know, well, because I feel like there's a lot of false advertising before you have children, and it's it's not a walk in the park. Yeah. It's hard work.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Very beautiful children I have, but very hard.
Yeah.
Very challenging. So the young people in our camps definitely do come up with some conversations that are challenging, and they've had, we get a variety of, we've had each year we have more than 22,000 students through our programs. Each year we now have, we'd have 60, we'd have nearly 200, 300 students come through that particular camp program. So we've had over 1,000 students through that particular mental health leadership camp. And you hear some really heartbreaking stories. Like we've got some young people that are, dealing with some issues that you don't know how you would have coped with at the age of 14, 15, 16 years old. But I think it's in this, in the opportunity to share their story that a real vulnerability and a real, I suppose a real connection comes, giving young people the opportunity to share their story, has them start to own their story and then move on from their story. I think that once young people learn that the challenges they've had were given to them for a reason, and that they can choose to relate to those challenges as a blessing or a curse, starts to, empower them and put them in the driver's seat of their own life, and to do that from a really young age while their brain's still forming, and to, to develop that growth mindset and things like that.
Yeah. And how does it affect you when you hear these stories and you hear kids thinking like that? Do you have somewhere that you can sort of offload and speak to people around the way you're feeling?
Yeah. So on a camp with the 40 young people, we'd have 10 to 15 mentors. Yeah. And so each young person would go into a smaller group, and they would then work with that group for the 5-day program, and then I work with the mentors. We also have a psychologist on the camp that's there for, actual treatment. We, as an organisation, don't offer treatment as such, so we get a third party in to do that. We want to normalise the conversations, but we also want to do so in a preventative and a promotion. That's what we do. That's our skill set. How do I deal with it? Yeah, I've got committed listeners or mentors that I can reach out to. I've seen counsellors in the past myself, so I'm not afraid to get help. And also our team are really beautiful at holding some of that, but I've been doing it a really long time now. So I think the more you hear these stories, I don't know if it's you become desensitized, or I just don't any longer view someone else's issues as my own.
Right.
Like that's...
You don't hold on to them.
No, I think I've just gotten really good at protecting my energy and protecting, what am I here for? I'm here to... On the camps, I still facilitate a lot of them. I'm here to facilitate transformation with these 40 young people. And I used to, I suppose, I'm a very compassionate and empathetic person. But I used to, I suppose, think that their problems were my problems. Yes. And I now fully trust them to support themselves. And I come at it from I'm here just as a space for them to support themselves, and for them to, I have full confidence that they have the tools they need, or they are capable within themselves to navigate their way through all of their problems. I don't need to fix them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I used to, early in my career, want to fix everything and want to solve everything. I want to adopt every child that had a crappy home life, or but I had to then step back and go, well, I had challenges and I'm okay, and it's those challenges that have made me today. And if we fix them for everyone, then it removes the opportunity for them to develop the resilience. And, anyone listening to this that's been a mentor on camp or that knows me will probably laugh that I'll use this analogy. But we liken that program to how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. They go into a chrysalis or a cocoon and they then turn to mush for a little while, and that's exactly what happens in the camp program. They come in these caterpillars, then they go into this safe zone, and we wrap them around in it. And the only way that they can emerge as a butterfly is if they struggle. And so if you were, as a human, to go up to a cocoon and break the cocoon for the butterfly would emerge with wings, but it wouldn't be able to fly. So it would die within a few hours.
Yep.
So the only way it gains that strength is if its wings struggle and resist out of the cocoon, because that develops the muscles that it needs to to fly. And if it doesn't struggle, it doesn't have the strength to fly. And so during the 5-day program, we manufacture a lot of little challenges, and what's a challenge for you would be different to what's a challenge for me. So for some people it is crying in front of the boys. For some people it is sharing their story at the campfire. For some of them it's abseiling. For some of them it's, diving into freezing cold water at 5 a.m. because there's a team challenge and we've gotten them out of bed and they're in their jammies and all the drama that, that happens. But, who are they going to be in that challenge, and how can they use that challenge to then navigate their way through life in the direction they choose, into what their life was all about and why they were born.
Yeah.
So I think if we try and fix everyone and remove the opportunity to grow, then we're going to do them a disservice, which is really hard as a parent. But I do understand that as a facilitator, it's just my job to create the space, and they have the tools they need. And yes, they'll check back in with us, and yes, we still need to support them, and all of that, it doesn't just stop at camp. Like, we definitely have young people that we continue to work with and that we'll mentor and all of that. But if we remove those opportunities for them to grow and develop, then it'll do them a disservice in 5 or 10 years. Or then they'll still be living at home at the age of 40 or, and so that's not what we're there about.
Yeah.
We're there to develop their strength and their resilience.
It must be extremely satisfying when you see these butterflies come out the other end of the camp.
They all look very different.
Yeah, do they?
We have a graduation at the end of every one of those programs, and we have, they come in as strangers, and it's really funny to see. We say to them, by this time you're all going to be best friends, and then by Friday you'll be family, and you may not like each other, but you're family, and you have this real appreciation for each other, and what's really amazing is that when we started the camp program back in 2013, we didn't think we'd get young people. We marketed it as, a leadership program that was all about building friendships and meeting new people and stuff like that. And now we market it as exactly what it is. It's a mental health leadership program where you're going to learn to prevent suicide in your community. And we get 80 to 100 applications for 40 positions. So I don't know if I, at the age of 15, would have applied for a camp in my school holidays that was going to teach me to prevent suicide. But there is like an army of passionate, compassionate, amazing, extraordinary young people that know this is the issue of their generation and want to learn the skills and the tools to prevent that issue and to support their friends and their peers. So it's really amazing.
Goes to show that the awareness is working, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that program came about because of, we read a lot of data and we go, okay, how can we address this particular issue? And so one of the studies that came out spoke about young people's coping strategies, and it showed us that more than 80% of young people reach out to a friend when they're struggling. And that's okay if you're struggling with relationship issues or, normal 15, 16-year-old stuff. But if you're struggling with, hey, I'm thinking about ending my life, or hey, I'm really struggling with mental health problem, and you reach out to a friend and that's your only support network, that's not going to support you and that's not going to support your friend. It's actually going to just perpetuate the problem and increase problems for that friend of yours. So it's really important to have friends, but it's even more important that those friends can connect you to professional services if that's what you need. And this particular program was to upskill those friends and those, I suppose, influencers within a school community, or those leaders within a school community, so they could then prevent suicide.
Cool. It's awesome. I used to work in fly in, fly out. and depression and mental health is huge in them type of places.
Yeah.
Have you got any intentions or plans to move into them? Or
no, we're gonna stick with young people, because we're still not even.
Scratch the surface.
We haven't even scratched. So, like I said, 1 in 3 high schools, we want to make sure that we are in every high school first and doing a great job.
Yeah.
And then look at how we can better support the teachers to support their students, and also better support the parents to support their students. And then hopefully, within the next 5-10 years, the FIFO workers would have developed some resilience in high school and would be more equipped to that. We are seeing a real shift, and we work with a couple of people that have really lobbied in the FIFO space, Peter and Anita Miller, who lost their son, Reese Connor, who was working FIFO at the time, and he died on site. They fundraise for us every year because they do realise that, youth is the way we're going to prevent that long term.
Yeah.
And they've been a large driving force in, that we've seen a shift in the swings, and we've seen a shift in the living arrangements for the guys on site. But yeah, it's not an industry that I would suggest many people that don't have a really strong sense of self and a really strong support network get into, because it's, you're isolated for a long period of time, working under really, really tough conditions.
Yeah.
And then you feel like a stranger there, and then you come home with your family and you feel like a stranger here. So it's really, really challenging. And I know mining companies need to look at the mental health of their FIFO staff, because it's not working for anybody.
Yeah, true.
Love to move into every sector, but we do have to focus on what we do well. And I have experienced in the last 7 years since we became a registered charity, I get quite attracted to new and fun and shiny things, and my board have to kind of rein me in, because we can't be all things to all people, and that would then do a disservice to what we do over here really well.
True.
I have to kind of curb my...
True. So how big's your team then? You must have a pretty big team for all of this.
Oh, yeah, right. We've got 6 staff, and we're currently at about 2.5 full-time equivalent.
Right.
Yeah.
2.5 full-time equivalent. How does the half work?
Yeah, well, because most of us work part-time.
Right, okay,
Yeah, so most of us either have children or are at uni, or we have one manager for our camp programs, one manager for our school programs, one manager for our events and marketing, and then administration and assisting and all of that fun stuff. So, I'd love more staff, but we need the revenue to pay the staff to deliver the program.
And that was my next question. Where does the revenue come from? Is it from the schools?
60% of our funding comes through events and fundraising. So that's kind of what we're quite good at. We don't get any government funding. Government naturally funds treatment rather than prevention, which we just haven't focused too much on government. We do get some corporate grants. And things like that. And then we run like a really small percentage of what we do is social enterprise. So, we do charge for some school workshops to offset the cost of delivering other school workshops, which are free. Our camps are free. So people sponsor and donate students and things like that. So our revenue, though, in the last, I remember when our turnover was like $40,000, $50,000 a year. Our revenue has increased. Last year it increased 83%, and this year we would have increased about 50-60%.
Yeah, right. That's good.
Yeah,
really
it's awesome.
Good.
Yeah, it's great. A lot of hard work and a lot of increased awareness, and I think we've got some really beautiful corporate partners now, like Access Hire, that was a social media client of mine that's now a charity partner. We're doing a really awesome project with C Corp at the moment, Altrad Services. A few people in the sort of mining, oil and gas that want to improve what their staff's children are living in, and know mental health's a big issue, and they see a really tangible result in the services we offer. So, they're our main corporate partners.
What about volunteers? Do you get many people
Yeah,
volunteering
we've
to
got
help?
about 80 to 100 a year we work with. So each camp will have about 20 volunteers. Then we do a Cape to Cape trek for corporates. So they trek from Augusta to Yellingup. So it's 135 kilometres in 5 days on sand, and it's hard slog.
Yeah, it is.
So on that particular trek, we'll have about 10 to 20 volunteers. Every event will have another 10 to 20 volunteers. So we've got about 80 to 100 volunteers a year that are quite regular, that come back for either a one-off event or a full week program.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, our volunteers are amazing.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, to give up the time for anything, especially a cause like this.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. So what are you excited about today in the business? What's on the horizon that you like can't wait to get stuck into that?
COVID's over. Well, in WA, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Don't say that too soon. So I'm really excited. So a lot of the last 3 to 4 years has been getting our operations right and getting our processes right. And we seem to have found a formula that works.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to have found a calendar that works, and we've found a real following and support network that know what we do and know when to attend an event and when to support. We launched our first ball last year, and we had nearly 400 people attend. And we raised, at that night we raised $400,000 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it was,
Where was that
pretty
at?
massive. It was at the Optus Stadium.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so the whole stadium turned red. So it was the Red Cape Ball, and the bridge turned red, and we're trying to paint the town red.
Nice.
So it was really, really beautiful. So we've now got the ball every November. We have the trek once a year, which is really awesome for our corporate partners. And then we have several camps every year. So I think we've now got a model that works, a successful model that works, and something new that we're working on, which is kind of top secret, but
not now,
is that we've partnered with C Corp we're investigating a mental health house for young kids that are struggling, but more of a holistic program that supports them when they're going through a tough time. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily that they're suicidal or dealing with really intense mental health issues, but there's something that it could become a tipping point, it could become a big issue, and we're looking at a holistic residential program that can support those teenagers. Yeah. So something new that we're working on a few people with, and that would be very new ground for us. Yeah. And a whole new arm to what we're doing. But
it sounds like you like a challenge, though.
I do enjoy challenges. But there's a lot in the mental health space that's clinical, and we're really committed to what can we create that's also treatment, also prevention, but it's holistic in honouring the whole young person and what they need. Cool. It can include, your mindfulness and your yoga and your psych sessions, how do we have a balance of both worlds and give young people choice in their treatment and choice in what supports them. We're big on that.
So how do people find out about your events? Say, for instance, the ball, there'll be a Facebook page to follow, I'm guessing?
So it's all on our website. So Zero2Hero, Zero 2, hero.com.au. Yeah, so all of our events go on there. And then, through Facebook, Instagram,
cool,
and all sorts.
Keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
Come along to one.
Get your tux on.
I have to get one first.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is. So what are the sort of investments and businesses that you're into? I know you touched on the social media thing there. Is that still going? Or
so as of June, so it has been going for nearly 10 years, and I'm kind of sad to wind it down, but it does feel right. But, when you're kind of saying goodbye to something, you get that last minute resistance, like, should I keep it going? I will probably move more into the facilitation, strategic planning and that side of it, rather than being on the tools and rather than managing, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram pages for clients. It's just not what I love anymore, but I do enjoy strategy. And I do enjoy branding, and I do enjoy how to communicate on behalf of the business. So I won't completely close down social, but I'll just have less of a focus on the management and see what comes. But Zero2Hero takes up a lot of my time, and if I'm not running the charity, I'm running my children. So I need to be mindful of both. And
Cool. what are the you touched on mentors earlier and people that you can reach out to. Who do you have in your life now that you class as a mentor, and what sort of things do you go to them for?
Yeah, so my husband's not a mentor, but my husband's definitely a sounding board for me, and he's highly successful in business. So he's like a good sounding board and, you know, a good vent machine for me at the end at the end of the day, when he's not trying to fix everything. I'm like, just let me talk. So my husband's someone I do rely on a lot in, I'm thinking this and have you considered this, and so he does challenge me.
Yep.
The board at Zero2Hero is phenomenal. Like we put together a really great team that each of them meets a different need, and most of them are no, Ashlee. I happen to have surrounded myself in not yes people, because I don't think that would grow anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just got off the phone to a lady called Kat who's on our board, and we're looking at, if we could solve one issue, which issue would we solve? Because we're working with a company that are going to support us or give us some pro bono expertise and volunteering. And so I had a great chat with her about where we're at with a few of our programs and events. Our chairman, Paul Stone, is someone that I speak to regularly and kind of challenges my thinking. A mentor when I started it all was a lady called Ros Worthington, who's just a beautiful woman that started breast cancer care Western Australia, Make-A-Wish Foundation over here. She worked with for a while and worked with Lifeline as well. So we worked together on a few projects there. So if I'm kind of, I need to have a chat to someone that's been there before and done it a few times. She was great at that point in my life. And then, our team's someone that I can rely on there's a few people that, depending on the issue, depending on what I need, there's some people I facilitate with, and, if I'm considering that, and, what should our stand be here? And, but I do also believe that you have the answers you need inside of yourself. You just need the right people to kind of hear, to hold that space, like we offer on camp, to hold that space for you to kind of hear what's authentic for you.
And that's what a good mentor does, isn't it?
Yeah.
They sort of draw the answer out of you by asking the right questions.
Yeah. So I've got different people in my life. I don't have any formal mentor structures at the moment, just because any more formal structures and I might implode. However, I've had, usually it's the chair at Zero2Hero. So we worked with Basil Hannah before, who's the CEO was the CEO at Parkerville Children and Youth Care. He was an amazing, amazing support for me for many years. Yep. And then before that was Mark Cinderbury. So there's a few people usually that have known what we're doing with Zero2Hero, or there's other people that are running not-for-profits all over the country that I've done programs with and learning with, that I just call up and go, have you got this, or have you done this, or I'm thinking this, tell me what I'm missing.
And you find they're always really responsive when you contact them?
I'm not for the industry I work in, I probably don't ask for help as much as I should or I could. So they know when I'm asking for help that I really need that help. I think that anyone that works in not-for-profit actually cares. Like we don't work in not-for-profit for the money, that's for sure, or the wage. So I think that we were all really understanding of each other, and I'll provide support to anyone that asks for it, and when I ask for it, they're happy to do the same.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So what does a day in the life look like for you?
I feel like I spend a lot of time on my computer for someone trying to change the world. Before COVID, I would kind of cafe hop, because a lot of my job is meeting people, going out to clients, etc. Our office is all the way in Jandicott and I live in Scarborough, so it's a decent hike. Yeah. So the day in the life is I usually do the school run, and then my daughter goes to after school care, and then I get a babysitter. And so I feel like I am logistically planning a large percentage of my life, and then sending emails the other percentage, and then just thinking about how we can improve and raise revenue and all of that fun stuff.
So there's no set routine?
No.
There's no meditation?
Well, no, it depends. It's kind of so I was taught in one of these development courses I did that there's 4 quadrants. There's urgent and important, and then there's not urgent, not important, and then there's urgent, not important, not urgent, important, or not important. Anyway, there's 4. I'd have to draw them.
It's hard to remember them without drawing them out, yeah.
But I kind of wait for things to boil into the urgent and important for me to deal with it.
Yeah.
So we've got lists and lists and lists of things that can be improved and that need to be done. And we kind of work in what events are coming up in the next 2 months. Let's make sure that we're doing the right things now to ensure that there is success there. Hey, that event's happening in November. It needs to be live on this date. And so, we're just constantly timelines and Gantt charts and whatever else, and quadrants. So I don't get a lot of time to work on the things that are not urgent, but I suppose COVID has allowed us a time and a space for us to look at how can we improve systems that are important but not necessarily urgent, that will just make our lives a lot easier.
Yeah, I think there is some benefits that came out of COVID.
Yeah,
we've definitely all took a step back.
Definitely.
And looked at how we do things.
Yeah.
So although it felt bad at the time and probably was bad for a lot of people, it's been a benefit for some people also, because it's made them look at the way they do things and streamline a few things too.
We've also seen a shift with young people at less of an emphasis on let's save up to travel. It's stimulated the new home market and the first home buyers market. Yeah. People have really prioritised their family and family time more, which has been quite beautiful. I was saying to someone the other day that it would be really great to have something like COVID, not a pandemic, every year where in February all restaurants close down and there's no events and everyone just spends time with their family, and then in March something else closes down, so you kind of actually get a rest, because that was what Christmas was 5-10 years ago, and now everything's open all of the time. So there's actually, our brains are in overdrive, which is why a lot of people hit a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety during COVID, because we were already fried. We'd already come off the for a lot of people, 2019 was a big year, was a hard year, was a challenging year. And then, they've kind of hit the ground running in 2020, but we didn't get the rest in between. Yeah. And we don't often get that rest. And it took a pandemic for people to stop. Yeah. So it would be great if, we didn't have, whilst we were in a pandemic, there was so much uncertainty, there was so much fear, there was so much stress. Our brains were in fight and flight, so we actually still didn't get the rest we needed. Yeah. But the opportunity of it was amazing, like for us to actually cool down, actually,
reconnect with the family.
Yeah, reconnect, reflect, digest, which is, supposed to be, which is why we get quite nostalgic and reflective around New Year, because naturally, our bodies go through this cycle and it gives us an opportunity to go, where are we at? But usually we're so busy with our daily lives that no one reflects anymore. No one rests properly. No one's getting sufficient sleep. A lot of people aren't eating the right food. And so there's this whole breakdown of our systems, which COVID could have, supported, but we were fried. Yeah. So I saw a real opportunity in it. And for a lot of people, they have come back to basics and have started to look at, how am I doing what I'm doing? How can I get more of a work-life balance? How can I work from home 20% of my life? And I think so a lot of people have become more family-centred and community-centred, which has been great. Yeah,
definitely. And it'll be interesting to see how the bigger companies in the CBD utilise their office space again. Now they know that a lot of people can work from home.
Yes.
Now they'll be looking at some of the high monthly rental figures that they're paying to have that office space and thinking, why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Which then
or
could
creating
give
more
people
flexible
that balance.
work relationship. Like, that you can often have people work 80% of the time and you'll still get the same productivity. It's like our team are all part-time and we get a very high level of productivity. We can't pay full-time hours at the moment. We just don't have the revenue there. But, we've looked at it at a board level. Should we pay one full-timer or two part-timers? Well, what are we going to get more productivity out of? And for us at the moment, it is part-timers. So
nice,
I think corporates will actually look at productivity levels, and a lot of time in an office is spent talking.
Yeah, around the coffee machine.
Yeah, around, around the water cooler, if it's even still a thing, or going for coffee or going for a cigarette break or whatever they're doing. I think corporates will really look at, hey, if we decreased our workforce by a day a week, are we still going to get the same results? It's likely, and people will feel better. So if people aren't as stressed and are happier, they are more productive.
Yeah. Some of the big oil and gas companies actually do a 9-day fortnight.
Yes.
So they'll do 10-hour days one week, Monday to Friday, and then 10-hour days Monday to Thursday, and take the Friday off.
Yeah, which is great because you actually do need time to manage your own personal errands and life. Yeah. And it's, if you as a company say you've got 1 day off a fortnight, that's when you do your stuff. You'll get more productivity the other days.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, they're still getting that extra 2 hours every day because instead of doing 8 hours, they were doing 10 hours and then getting that Friday off, still getting paid the same, but getting that day off, which was beneficial.
Yeah, it's
immensely.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to finish with these couple of questions.
Yes.
What are your 3 favourite books?
I told you I have 2 children, right?
Yeah.
So I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So books are like a luxury I just haven't had in years.
You can pick a child's
book
if you want.
The Hungry Caterpillar. We're reading Clarice in Paris at the moment. So I listened to a few audiobooks.
Yeah.
So one I finished listening to recently was something called The Whole Brain Child by Dan Siegel. So it talks about how we can utilize both the creative and the logical side of the brain, and how both are completely required for children. So that one was awesome. I'm also listening to Ronan Farrow's Catch and Kill. So, getting into Hollywood and understanding the stuff that goes on there. I'm just finding it interesting and something I don't need to think about. But a few books that I've really loved and have really made a difference for me in the past is, I'm a bit of a hippie. So there's one called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and The Body is a Barometer of the Soul. So talks a little bit about emotional causes of ailments in our body. And then what did I don't know. I'm not a huge book person. Would love to be, but
audiobooks are fine. Same thing.
Yeah. What else did I download on audio? No, that's it.
That is. The good thing about audiobooks is you can listen to them while you're in the gym,
go
for a walk. Yeah, so you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah. Which is perfect for me because
I'll probably leave this interview and think of all these books that made like an instrumental difference in my life that I've loved. I learned through experience though. So I have forced myself in my career to go into experiential learning. So a lot of self-development courses, a lot of I did a program called the Young Social Pioneers with the Foundation for Young Australians. I did a course with the School for Social Entrepreneurs. I did a heap of landmark courses, MJB courses, DeMartini courses, like all sorts of different courses, because I learn while I'm there and while I'm in it and while I'm immersed, and I learn through other stories and real life stories rather than learning from the pages of a book.
Yeah.
Not that they're not great, but
more
I think
a practical person.
I just I learn on the ground and while I'm in it.
I think
so
for
I have
me,
to immerse myself.
Books are more of an awareness thing for me. So I'll listen to an audiobook on like 1.7, 1.8 speed. So it's like whizzing through it pretty fast.
Yeah, right.
More to get an awareness of the subject. And then if it interests me, I'll dig deeper into it. I'll probably go back and buy that book, the audiobook and paperback version. Then I can highlight it to bits and scribble all over it. But yeah, for me, reading's more of an awareness thing. And then like you, I am a practical person. So I want to be out there putting what I've learned into action, because that's when the experience kicks in.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to find... because I'm quite an extrovert and I learn through, like I get my energy from others. So I've found that those development courses are kind of like a real life book over 5 days or 3 days or whatever it is. And I can apply it there and then to my life. Whereas when I'm reading a book, I have to do an extra step to apply that book.
Do you think that's where the idea for the camps came from then, in a way?
The idea for the camps... I remember being young and I remember having a whole heap of challenges, and I remember thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had something like X-Men for young people, where we, instead of criticizing or I suppose singling a young person out based on their differences. We empowered them based on their differences, where they could learn that what made them different was actually their unique skills or their superpowers, or, you know, whatever branding spin you want to put on it. What if we had a place where they really got that they're okay just as they are, and they're okay to not be okay? And, you know, we went back to what it's all about. So the first day of camp, they have to hand their phones in, and they don't get it until after graduation on the last day. And so the first day they're all detoxing. They're getting like dopamine deficiencies because they haven't had a like in, and they lost their streaks and all of that fun stuff. Streaks are like a social media thing, by the way. They're not what you and I think is a streak. It's like a youth version. Anyway. And yeah, so they kind of detox off their phones for the first day, but then you kind of see halfway through it where they're actually communicating. They're actually sitting around a campfire, or they're going for a bushwalk, and they're actually connecting with their peers in real life.
Yeah, communication
not
is like,
through technology.
Communication is a lost skill.
Yes,
nowadays,
definitely. Yeah, and they've kind of lost, you know, how do you read body language, and how do you understand a person? So, yeah, so I think that the idea of having like a camp or a, you know, house hero or, you know, something. I do fondly remember camping at a young age with my dad, and how you'd kind of go down the Murray River and choose somewhere that looked good, and you'd live there for a few days, and you'd fish for your food, and, you know, it was a little bit tribal and all of that stuff. But it was really, I think when you start to understand that you don't need a lot, that you can then start to create. And, you know, when you can really, really develop actual human connections, you begin to connect with yourself. Yeah, and so it's a really beautiful program that's really natural and really holistic, and, you know, we still have the clinical side there, or, you know, they still learn from, you know, psychologists, but then we also balance that with some yoga or some mindfulness or some art for those that want to do that, or survival challenges for the boys, or, you know, 5 a.m. boot camps because they need to be physical, and just creating enough of an opportunity that they can understand what works for them, so that then they can take it back and support themselves, because high school is hard. High school's hard work, and they've got all the added pressures that you and I had, but you know, all of the stress of, they hit puberty, they lose half their mind in a process called pruning, where they literally shed memories as a teenager. They start relationships, they fail relationships, they have all the peer pressure, they have parties, they have underage drug and alcohol use, and all of that fun stuff compiled with and on top of social media, where you and I could go home at 3 o'clock at a school day, and we would get that whole night to
play soccer.
Yeah. Or to play soccer. Or to, you know, do our homework or watch TV or, you know, wind down. Now they're on their phone till 10, 11 o'clock at night. They then put their phone down. Their brain's still going for another 2 hours. Yeah. They're not getting enough sleep, and they're not getting the time to really, I suppose, consider what happened today. Who am I? What makes me happy? What are the kind of friends that I want to have? What are the kind of relationships that I want to have? How do I want to speak to myself? Because they don't do that thinking anymore, because they're always distracted. So they're always looking at, you know, externally for some internal gratification. And, you know, social media, it's interesting that I work in mental health and social media, because that kind of feeds that. But I think if it's used well, it can really be a force for change. If it's not used well, which most teenagers don't use it well, it's actually harming them. It's harming them long term. You know, it's causing all sorts of later on issues. And if we don't teach them how to navigate their own brain and their own body, then, you know, it's going to be a lifelong battle.
It's crazy how social media can be used for so many different things, and good, bad, business, promotion, making money, losing money. Yeah, but I do think you need to, like, I have Sundays without social. Yeah, I just don't, you know, it's very rare that I'm online on a Sunday. Yeah. Because it's my husband works 6 days, I've got 2 kids, we need a day that's for just our family, and technology is a distraction from that. Yeah. I switch my phone off. Well, it automatically switches into do not disturb at 8 o'clock at night. It doesn't come back on until 7 the next morning.
Yeah, perfect.
Which is good. It means I again, talk to my wife, communicate.
Yes.
I go to bed, and instead of sitting in bed and flicking through my news feed for an hour, because an hour disappears in no time, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I'm going to bed and I'm falling asleep virtually straight away, waking up the next morning, and I get to do my own little routine on the morning before messages start pinging through and emails start coming through. So
how you start your day is so important to set the tone.
Yeah. And I realize if I don't go through that little routine that I normally go through, it definitely affects my day.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm the same with the bad coffee. If I have a bad coffee, the day is going to be shit.
Well, this last question could be an interesting one. So we could use it as, where's your best place to eat in Perth, or where's your best coffee shop in Perth?
Yeah, right. So best breakfast in Perth, I've got a couple of places. I really love Mary Street Bakery in City Beach.
Yep.
So that's close to my house. And they do a great coffee, and I drink almond milk, so they don't burn the almond milk, which is lovely. And also a couple of my friends own Port City Roasters in Freo.
Yeah.
So if I'm down that way, they do an awesome cup of coffee as well. And then, I don't know, lunch. My husband and I used to be a fan of the long champagne lunches on a Sunday. We used to love Zafferano's or Coco's or somewhere on the water, with nice food, or Shore House in Swanbourne. Really love anywhere coastal. Yeah, beautiful places and good food. And then dinner, I'm a sucker for Italian. So I think I was supposed to be Italian. Someone just got the continent wrong when they birthed me. So anywhere with good pizza. So we're talking Papagello in Leederville, Mozzarella in West Leederville, I think it is. Yeah. And great pasta. You've got, I don't know, like Pizzacca in Scarborough is our little local, which is awesome. Or you've got there's one in Shenton Park, which is amazing. Or Perugino's have the best, like most amazing, this like bonbon, like puff pastry, mozzarella cheese thing that's just like fat on a plate, but it's beautiful and it's amazing, and they do the best pastas.
Where's this place?
Perugino in West Perth.
Perugino.
Yeah, it's like really fancy. Or then if you want something a bit spicy, you can go Long Chim at State Buildings.
Yeah, Long Chim's good.
It's lovely.
Perugino opposite the old Market Boss, or the Market Boss building.
Oh, don't talk to me in advertising agencies. It's got the like small, like the skinny trees up the side. It's got like 5 trees. Perugino. No. You might thinking Villa d'Este. There's a couple. There's some really good Italian in West Perth.
Yeah, it's like on the border of Subi on Hay Street.
Yeah, you're thinking Villa d'Este.
Right.
So not far from there is Perugino's. It's across from, I feel like it's across from, it was the old Onyx Bar back in the day. Now I'm showing my age. That's now, it's like this whiskey bar thing.
In West Perth?
Yes. I think it's on Ord. No, it's not Ord.
We'll find it.
I'm gonna have to Google it. I'm gonna have to Google it now. Like I've ruined it. Hang on, Perugino. Outram Street. 77 Outram Street.
Right,
I feel like I'm doing I haven't
There's
actually.
a shout out there.
I haven't eaten there in a few years. It's amazing, but fine dining isn't what I do with my children.
I'm going to check it out.
They're feral. But yeah, it's lovely Italian. So anywhere with good, and it has to be wood-fired pizza.
Yes.
None of this oven stuff. Yeah. It's got to be wood-fired. And so Perugino's is fab. Oh, and Spritz in Mount Hawthorn as well. There's actually a few. I think maybe around my house is just a lot of Italian-loving pizza fans.
A lot of pizza shops there.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Ashlee Harrison, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And join us next week. And remember, every master was once a disaster and every winner was once a beginner. Thanks for joining us on the Perth Entrepreneurs Podcast. Hit the subscribe button and connect with me on Facebook, the Perth Entrepreneurs Podcast, Instagram, Neil Gibb Pep Talk, and LinkedIn, Neil Gibb.